You're staring at a bunch of press machines on Amazon, wondering if you're about to spend hard-earned cash on something that will just sit in the corner gathering dust. I get that hesitation. The last thing you want is a tool that looks impressive on paper but fails when you actually need it for a job on the bench. And if you're like most DIYers or small shop owners, you're also juggling a limited budget, limited space, and the need for a machine that can handle a variety of tasks without forcing you to buy a whole lineup of specialty equipment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So, does the Banfluxion 220V 1.5KW manual/electric dual usage track pin press live up to the hype, or is it another overpromised gadget? Let's walk through what makes this press tick, who actually benefits from it, and where it might fall short so you can decide whether it's the right fit for your workshop. First off, the biggest draw of this machine is the dual-mode operation. You can run it electrically with a 1.5 kilowatts motor or switch to manual hydraulic pressure when you need that extra push without plugging into a wall outlet. In practice, that means if you're in a garage with limited power capacity, you can still squeeze a decent amount of force using the hand pump and the built-in hydraulic gauge. Conversely, when you have a power source nearby, flipping the switch gives you consistent, hands-free operation. For someone who alternates between quick one-off jobs and longer batch work, that flexibility can translate into real time saved. The hydraulic gauge is another practical element. Unlike a generic press that just tells you the piston is moving, this gauge shows you the actual pressure being applied in real time. In my experience, that visibility matters when you're pressing something delicate, say, a brass sleeve onto a steel rod for a custom bike component. You can dial in just enough pressure to seat the sleeve without marring the surface. On the flip side, if you're crushing a stubborn automotive brake pad, you'll know exactly when you've hit the required tonnage, preventing you from overpressing and damaging the part. Sturdiness is a claim you see on almost every product page, but with the Banfluxion press, it's more than marketing speak. The frame is a solid steel cast, bolted together with reinforced joints, which gives it a weighty feel that dampens vibration during operation. In a real-world scenario, that means you can run the electric motor for extended periods, like when you're assembling a batch of 20-odd aluminum housings without the whole thing wobbling or shifting on the bench. That stability also helps with repeatability. Each press cycle lands in the same spot, a subtle but important factor when you're producing parts that need consistent dimensions. Now, let's talk about the practical downsides. The machine is rated for 220V, which is fine for most professional shops but can be a hurdle for hobbyists in countries where 110V is the standard. You'd need a step-up transformer or a dedicated circuit, adding extra cost and complexity. The 1.5 kilowatts motor, while adequate for many light to medium tasks, isn't a beast. If you regularly press large automotive components like heavy-duty clutch discs or you need to achieve very high tonnage quickly, you might find the motor a bit sluggish. The manual hydraulic side helps, but you'll have to pump the hand lever more often, which can become tiring over long sessions. Maintenance is another hidden trade-off. Because the press relies on hydraulic fluid, you'll need to keep an eye on the fluid level and occasionally bleed the system to avoid air bubbles. That's not a huge chore, but it's an extra step that pure mechanical presses don't require. For a shop that prefers a truly set-and-forget tool, that could be a deterrent. Who should seriously consider buying this press? If you're a small to medium workshop that handles a mix of metalworking, automotive repair, or even jewelry casting, the dual-mode flexibility gives you the ability to adapt without buying separate machines. Imagine a bike shop that needs to press bearing races onto forks, then later switch to pressing brake pads on a motorcycle. This single unit can handle both without swapping equipment. The built-in gauge is a boon for anyone who needs precision, such as a hobbyist fabricating custom firearm components where overpressing could ruin the part. The portable design also fits well in a cramped garage. You can roll it out when needed and tuck it away when not. On the other hand, skip this if you run a high-volume production line or need massive force on a regular basis. A manufacturer that presses large steel shafts day after day will find the 1.5 kilowatts motor and manual hydraulic pump limiting, both in speed and in maximum pressure. Likewise, if you're only after a basic, occasional press for tiny tasks like pressing a few small springs, this machine might be overkill. In that case, a simple manual lever press would cost less and take up less space. From a value-for-money standpoint, the Banfluxion press sits in a sweet spot for its category. It's priced higher than